Liu Kang was killed in 2002 and was meant to stay dead forever. So, how's the guy who's supposed to be dead now a god ruling the Mortal Kombat universe? In the beginning, the strategy for protecting reality was basically, hope this one guy doesn't skip leg day. From Mortal Kombat 1 through Mortal Kombat 4, the survival of Earthrealm depended entirely on a single point of failure logic that would get any IT department fired immediately. And the Elder Gods are the ultimate absent landlords here, because they set up a system where a wizard can invade your home unless a specific monk wins a karate tournament. And that monk is none other than our golden boy, Liu Kang. This situation is like protecting your life savings with a password that has the word password, and then being surprised when someone guesses it. Liu Kang was like an employee, the only employee who always showed up to work on time. He beat Goro, Shang Tsung, and Shao Kahn twice, but the writers didn't actually have a plan for what happens when your protagonist, Golden Boy, hits his peak. Because here's the problem. If your Golden Boy is undefeated, you've written yourself into a corner and there won't be tension or stakes. The problem with making a human the centerpiece of your universe is that humans are fragile, and eventually, they get boring in this aspect. By the time we hit the end of the fourth game, Liu Kang had already saved the world 4 times, and the narrative records were completely out of balance. So they did the only thing they could think of. They killed him, and that's where things started to get interesting, because the way they killed Liu Kang reveals just how little they planned for his character. In the opening cinematic of Deadly Alliance, they snapped his neck and tried to move on. It was like the storytelling equivalent of a landlord painting over black mold instead of actually fixing the pipes. And that decision created a problem that's defined the franchise ever since. Because once you kill your protagonist, you have to figure out what comes next. This led to the zombie Liu Kang phase in Deception and Armageddon, which I think is arguably one of the most desperate asset management move in gaming history. They had a dead protagonist, but still wanted to use his character model. So what did they do? They brought him back as a rotting corpse with chains on his wrists. It didn't make sense logically, and it turned the champion of Earthrealm into a mindless being that just wandered around the plot. Death made Liu Kang more interesting, but also made him harder to manage, because this time, they had to explain why a zombie was still technically the hero. In Mortal Kombat Deception, the ancient dragon king Onaga used Shujinko to resurrect himself and became unstoppable. So, Raiden gave up his Elder God status to personally intervene. He kamikaze attacks Onaga with enough electricity to power a city. That explosion killed him, unfortunately, and also killed Quan Chi and Shang Tsung instantly. Onaga walked away without a scratch. But we know that death sometimes doesn't mean death in Mortal Kombat, most especially for a god like Raiden, because he returns as Dark Raiden. Dark Raiden, who's now corrupted because his suicide blast didn't work, digs up Liu Kang's corpse and wraps it in Huan chains. Huan chains are enchanted shackles used by an ancient tribe to control the dead, and then reanimates him as a mindless enforcer. Liu Kang then becomes Raiden's attack dog. And this is where the zombie Liu Kang thing gets weird. People actually loved it, because it was so disrespectful to the character that it became fascinating. The developers kept this going through Mortal Kombat Armageddon, where zombie Liu Kang's body fights without his soul, and that soul is floating around an outworld as a separate entity. By the end, his body is destroyed and his soul is in limbo. The entire timeline also collapses into an apocalypse, where everyone murders each other on a pyramid. Now this is important for the God question because of what it reveals about the developers' intentions. Liu Kang was being punished for being too successful, because when you think about it, the developers looked at their reliable protagonist and decided the solution was to humiliate him for 3 games straight. But here's the kicker. Raiden sent a message back in time to his younger self to prevent Armageddon, and his entire strategy for saving the timeline was unclear. But the question again is, did Liu Kang become a god or not? That brings us to the 2011 reboot. Mortal Kombat 9 takes us back to the first tournament, but this time, we find out Raiden had visions in which one of them was a cryptic message from his future self. The crazy thing is that he spends the entire game misinterpreting it. The visions gave him flashes of people dying, and the message, he must win. Raiden had 3 assumptions on who that was, and the first assumption was that Liu Kang had to win the tournament, so he continued with the exact same plan as the original timeline, which was to let Liu Kang fight. But Raiden's also paranoid now, because he's seen the future, and it's bad. So, he starts making decisions that actively make things worse. In the original timeline, Earthrealm's warriors die during Shao Kahn's invasion, but in this timeline, Raiden gets them killed earlier, trying to prevent Shao Kahn's invasion. Kung Lao, who's Liu Kang's best friend, dies in a fight Raiden arranged. Kitana, who's Liu Kang's girlfriend, also dies because Raiden's interference escalated conflicts in Outworld. By the time Shao Kahn actually invades, half of Earthrealm's defenders are already dead, and Liu Kang gets extremely angry. Because here's the thing, Liu Kang trusted Raiden, and he believed in the Thunder God's wisdom. But Raiden's wisdom in this timeline is just panic based on visions he didn't understand at first. So, Raiden finally figured out what "he must win" meant. It meant Shao Kahn must win the invasion so the Elder Gods can punish him for breaking the rules, and Liu Kang snaps. He attacks Raiden, because from his perspective, Raiden's solution to saving Earthrealm is to let the guy who just killed his girlfriend conquer the planet. Liu Kang, fueled by grief and rage, charged his dragon fire and fired it at Raiden. In a split second, and in an instinctive reaction to defend himself, Raiden unleashed a massive burst of godly lightning. The two powers collided, and because Raiden is an eternal god and Liu Kang is immortal, the lightning overwhelmed the fire. Raiden didn't intend to kill him, he intended to push him back. Instead, the electrical surge was so powerful that it cooked Liu Kang from the inside out. Liu Kang dies in Raiden's arms, cursing him with his final breath.
No. This was not meant to happen.
What did you do?
Liu Kang, forgive me.
You have killed us.
Shao Kahn eventually merged the realms, and the Elder God showed up after the party was over. He got vaporized, and Earthrealm was finally saved. This is narrative bankruptcy. The developers rebooted the entire timeline specifically to avoid the mistakes of the original, and they immediately made it worse. In the original timeline, Liu Kang died because two sorcerers ambushed him. In this timeline, he dies because his mentor accidentally electrocuted him during an argument. I can't call this an accident, by the way, but it gets worse, because Liu Kang's soul doesn't get to rest. Quan Chi, who made a deal with Shao Kahn, claims the souls of everyone who died during the invasion. Liu Kang got resurrected as a Revenant. Since Liu Kang died with a heart full of bitterness and betrayal toward Raiden, it was easy for the sorcerer to twist his spirit into a Revenant, and he spends the next game as a villain. Mortal Kombat 10 takes place 25 years after Mortal Kombat 9, and Liu Kang now serves as a high-ranking general in Shinnok's undead army, ruling alongside Revenant Kitana, and his goal is revenge against Raiden and the Elder Gods who let this happen. And here's the unreliable narrator angle. The official story is that Liu Kang became evil because Quan Chi corrupted him. But if you actually look at his dialogue in Mortal Kombat 10, he's not mindlessly evil. He's angry, and he points out correctly that the Elder Gods did nothing while he died. He also points out that Raiden's interference killed more people than it saved. And if you think about it, he's not wrong. He's just been resurrected as a demon, so nobody listens. And Raiden's solution to the Revenant problem is to decapitate Shinnok and deliver his head to Liu Kang as a threat. And he was like,
There are fates worse than death.
the timeline Raiden created to prevent the apocalypse is somehow worse than the original, and the guy who was supposed to be the hero is now the villain. And unlike the zombie Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat Deception, the Revenant Liu Kang is fully conscious and intelligent. He remembers everything about his past life, but his perspective is twisted. Now, this is the second time the developers killed Liu Kang. First time, he became a zombie. Second time, he became a villain. And both times, it happened because Raiden failed. So here's the question. If Liu Kang was always destined to be a god, why did the developers spend 2 entire timelines making him a corpse and a Revenant? I think the answer is he wasn't destined for anything. He was a victim of bad planning, and maybe the godhood was a retcon to fix it, but we'll get to that. First, we need to talk about the Time Mom. And speaking about time, I think this is the time to hit the subscribe button, because the subscription will be everlasting. Mortal Kombat 11 introduces Kronika, who is the Keeper of Time, and decides to intervene after watching Raiden screw up in multiple timelines. Her plan was to restart time and create the New Era, which is a balanced timeline where Raiden doesn't exist to keep ruining everything. And honestly, she's got a point, because when you look at his track record across multiple timelines, it is terrible. But the crazy thing is that Kronika is also insane, like very insane, because being the Keeper of Time for a long period of time drove her mad, and her version of balance is eternal war between the realms. She just wants to create a timeline where her vision of cosmic order is maintained, regardless of how many people die. To accomplish this, she caused a time quake, which pulled people from different points in time and set them against each other. Young Liu Kang exists in the same timeline as Revenant Liu Kang. Young Raiden also exists alongside old Dark Raiden. It's chaos.
Chaos is unknowable, unpredictable.
Kronika approached Revenant Liu Kang and promised him a new era where Raiden never existed. And since the Revenant still carried the trauma of being burned alive by his mentor, he joined and viewed her as a savior who would finally give him justice against the God of Thunder. Dark Raiden realized that the only way to defeat Kronika was to merge his essence with Liu Kang, and this created Fire God Liu Kang. It also gave him the knowledge needed to defeat Kronika. But when you think about this, it's like a forced retirement package by Raiden because he's tired of being blamed for everything that goes wrong. Liu Kang destroys an entire legion of Netherrealm demons by dive-bombing them and creating an explosion. He defeats Cetrion, Kronika's daughter and an elder god, in single combat, and then he fights Kronika herself through different eras of time, from prehistoric Earth with dinosaurs to the dawn of creation. And as expected, he wins. This is the first time Liu Kang has actually won something on his own terms since Mortal Kombat 4, and it's because he's been given godlike power. But here's the thing. Fire God Liu Kang's existence proves the developers never planned this, because the concept of Fire God Liu Kang first appeared in Mortal Kombat 9 non-canonical arcade endings. If you beat arcade mode with Liu Kang, there's an ending where he defeats Raiden in Mortal Kombat and demands the Elder Gods make him a god to replace Raiden as Earthrealm's protector. It's a what-if scenario, and was never meant to be canon. So Fire God Liu Kang wasn't a long-term plan. It was an idea the developers threw into arcade endings as fan service, and then 8 years later they went, wait, that actually solves our problem, and made it canon. The logic here is purely cosmetic. They needed a way to reset the board again, and they figured that if they made Liu Kang a god, they wouldn't have to explain his motivations anymore. Gods don't need motivations, they just have visions and purposes. So it was a complete rebranding of a character that had been stagnant for decades, but it only worked because the alternative was letting the franchise end. After defeating Kronika, Liu Kang gains control of the Hourglass, and he has 3 choices depending on how you fight the final battle. For the best ending, Raiden becomes mortal, Liu Kang stays a god, and he chooses Katana to help him reshape the timeline to recreate a better world. For the middle ending, it's the same thing, but Raiden stays to help instead of Katana. And for the bad ending, you lose to Kronika and she decapitates Liu Kang. But the game lets you retry, so it doesn't really count. The best ending is canon, obviously, because the developers aren't just gonna let Kronika win. So Liu Kang gets to rewrite history with Katana at his side. Except that's not where the story ends, because there's a DLC. Mortal Kombat 11's Aftermath is a DLC that picks up right after Liu Kang defeats Kronika, and it was the director's cut finale that cleaned up the mess left by Kronika's defeat. Everything was set, but Liu Kang realized he couldn't restart history because the crown Kronika wore, which was the Crown of Souls, shattered in the final battle. And without it, Liu Kang can't control the Hourglass properly. Suddenly, a portal opens, and Shang Tsung shows up with Fujin, who is Raiden's brother, and Nightwolf, to helpfully explain that he knows where to find the crown, and they should totally trust him to go back in time and retrieve it. Liu Kang, who is now a god and should be smarter than this, agrees, because the plot demands it. Shang Tsung goes back and retrieves the crown, and as expected from the snake, he immediately betrays everyone. He absorbs Kronika's power, and fights Liu Kang for control of the timeline. This leads to a final battle where you choose to play as either Liu Kang or Shang Tsung, and the ending changes based on who wins. If Shang Tsung wins, he becomes a titan, then absorbs Liu Kang's soul, and creates his own timeline, where he's a god and where Raiden and Fujin are his servants. It's extremely evil and also extremely non-canonical, because there's no way the developers are going to make Shang Tsung the winner of the franchise. Now, if Liu Kang wins, he retrieves the crown and gains full control of the Hourglass. But here's the twist. Liu Kang reveals he knew Shang Tsung would betray them. He needed Shang to fight Kronika in the past, because only someone with Shang's power could defeat her there, and Liu Kang was using him the entire time. This is the first time Liu Kang has been written as tactically intelligent instead of just good at fighting, and it somehow worked. But there's a problem. Liu Kang is afraid of going mad like Kronika did, because being the keeper of time for eternity has a documented history of making people insane. So he makes a decision. He gives up his Titan powers and relinquishes control of the Hourglass to Garrus, who is Kronika's former enforcer reconstructed as an ally. Liu Kang keeps his Fire God status, and he also gives up the time manipulation. He becomes Earthrealm's protector, the role Raiden used to have, and uses the Hourglass to shape one timeline where everyone gets a chance at peace. The Aftermath ending shows Liu Kang meeting the great Kung Lao, who is the ancestor of his best friend, and telling him it's time to train. The new era has begun, and Liu Kang is now the god overseeing it. This is where the developers finally commit to Liu Kang as god as his permanent role in the franchise going forward. He's now the deity who creates the conditions for tournaments to exist. And this is also where the answer to, was Liu Kang supposed to be god, becomes clear, because the answer is no. He wasn't. But once the developers realized they'd spent 30 years making Raiden incompetent and Liu Kang reliable, they had no choice but to make the swap permanent. Now the question is, how well does he use such powers? Mortal Kombat 1 is Liu Kang's timeline, and it's the new era he created after defeating Kronika and Shang Tsung. It's immediately obvious he learned nothing from Kronika's mistakes, because he's micromanaging everyone's fate. Shang Tsung is no longer a powerful sorcerer. Quan Chi was a miserable worker. Mileena was also no longer a clone created to be evil. She's Katana's twin sister and the heir to Outworld's throne. General Shao wasn't an emperor. He became a general who's frustrated with peace. Liu Kang looked at almost everyone who caused problems in the old timeline and nerfed them. But here's the the issue. Liu Kang believes in free will, and he says it repeatedly. He created this timeline to give people the choice to be better, but he also very clearly manipulated their starting positions to make being better the easier choice, and being evil significantly harder. Raiden, the thunder god from the old timeline, is now a mortal farmer. Liu Kang took the guy who kept screwing up and made him a humble human who has to earn his power. And it works, because this Raiden is now cautious and respectful, and I think he's everything the old Raiden should have been. The Lin Kuei ninja assassins are now guardians of Earthrealm who serve Liu Kang directly. Scorpion and Sub-Zero are brothers, which I find very weird. Smoke is also their adopted sibling. The Mortal Kombat tournament became a friendly exchange between Earthrealm and Outworld to maintain peace. Liu Kang worked with King Jared, who is Sindel's husband in this timeline, to establish it as diplomacy through combat. Everything in this timeline seemed to be going fine, until it started getting ruined. I mean, this is Mortal Kombat. There's no room for peace. Bi-Han reveals he let his father die.
Father would turn in his grave if he saw this. He was a doddering old fool. He did us a favor having that accident. And I was right to let him die. Let him die.
Shang Tsung, despite being a scam artist, gets his memories of the old timeline back and starts building power. Quan Chi does the same. General Shao is also actively planning rebellion. And the reason this happens is because of an unknown benefactor who's been helping them, someone giving them knowledge and resources. Liu Kang assumes it's someone from the old timeline seeking revenge, and he's right, but he doesn't know who. The benefactor reveals himself as Damashi, who's actually Titan Shang Tsung, the version of Shang Tsung who won his fight against Liu Kang in an alternate aftermath timeline. When Liu Kang and Shang Tsung fought for the Hourglass, the battle split reality into two timelines, one where Liu Kang won and one where Shang Tsung won. Titan Shang Tsung ruled his timeline. He went mad and decided the solution was to invade Liu Kang's timeline and destroy it. So Liu Kang's new era lasts approximately one game before a multiversal invasion happens, and his solution is to gather allies, fight Titan Shang Tsung's forces, and consult with Garrus about what to do. Garrus reveals that when Liu Kang gave up his Titan powers, Garrus didn't actually let them vanish. He stored them in a small figurine the great Kung Lao gave to Liu Kang, because Garrus feared this exact situation would happen. Liu Kang can reclaim his Titan powers, but if he does, it'll be permanent and he can never step down again. Liu Kang does it anyway, because Titan Shang Tsung's forces are too strong, and he needs the power to access other timelines and recruit Titans from alternate realities to help fight. And here's the kicker. The cost of reclaiming his Titan powers is his immortality. Liu Kang becomes the keeper of time again, but he's no longer an eternal god. He's a Titan on a timer, and when his time runs out, he's done. This is the most recent canonical information from MK1's story, and it reveals the truth about Liu Kang's godhood. It was never supposed to be permanent. Even the developers, who made him a god in Mortal Kombat 11, immediately created a situation in Mortal Kombat 1 where he gives up his Titan powers, and then another situation where reclaiming them costs him his immortality. Liu Kang's divinity has an expiration date because the developers still can't commit to him being a god forever. They gave him godhood to fix their timeline problems, then spent the next game hedging their bets in case they wanted to depower him later. So the real question now is, how long can the developers keep him in that role before they decide to kill him again? Because if there's one thing Mortal Kombat has taught us, that'll be the fact that nobody stays dead, not even the gods. Anyways, that's it for now. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and hit that subscribe button. Also, you can make your request for the next character breakdown. I'm Joe, and I'll see you in the next one.